If you want somebody to try something new, it helps to make them feel like it's something they've already experienced. That kind of familiarity breeds comfort, and I definitely think that's the case with EVs. Now, I'm not really talking about the early adopters, the people who need to be at the cutting edge of tech. I'm referring more to the hoi polloi, the average Joes and Janes of the world. That's why I am such a fan of this subcompact Hyundai Kona Electric. It takes all the good parts of the Kona that I drove last year and translates it to an electric vehicle that should appeal to both tech nerds and my mom. And the best part is, not a whole lot has changed since the gas version. There are, of course, some distinct design differences between this Kona Electric and the regular gas version, even though the two are pretty similar. Up front, the grille has been eliminated and replaced with this kind of dimpled front end that adds some character to, believe it or not, probably the one car that doesn't actually need extra character. It also has a set of wheels that, well, I absolutely adore. But honestly, most folks might have trouble differentiating this from any other Kona. And again, I think that's a pretty good thing. The electric powertrain means the interior gets a shake-up too. The tall center console has been swapped out in favor of one that has a surprisingly large cubby underneath with both a USB and a 12-volt charging port. The standard shift lever is gone too in favor of a button cluster that, to be honest, I still haven't been able to commit to muscle memory even after a week of regular use. Ahead of that is yet another deep cubby with enough space for a wireless device charger. Personally, I would stick with the dark interior option because all this bright work in my tester makes the car look a little cheap. The Kona's battery doesn't eat into cargo space, thankfully, because its 19 cubic foot cargo capacity is second to last in the segment. That being said, there is still plenty of space in the cabin for humans or dogs or cargo you put in the second row. I don't know what you people do with your cars. Sadly, there is no frunk, just a bunch of EV hardware tucked under the hood. Now, the majority of the Hyundai Kona Electric's tech is contained here on the central infotainment screen. The bottom two trims make do with 7-inch screens, but this bad boy gets upgraded to an 8-inch touchscreen. Fancy. Now, when you first boot up the car, you're met with the home screen, which offers a kind of top-down overview of a majority of the systems. You have a map here on the left, your music on the right, and a few extra menus underneath to help you navigate to some specific things that aren't available on the regular Kona. Now we may as well talk about the most interesting part first, which is this little EV button here on the home screen. Tap that and you get to a screen that you don't get in a regular Kona because, fun fact, that Kona's not electric. It shows you not only a map of the max distance you can go based on how much charge you have left, it also allows you to look at the energy information for your battery and set limits for your charging. And it also allows you to do charge management. Say you have the car plugged in all night, but you only want to run it at a certain hour. You can set it to run then, and you can also have the cabin preconditioned at a certain time. So if you wake up in the middle of the winter and you're cold and you hop into your car, it's already nice and warm for you. Now let's get back to the regular kind of tech that you can also find in the vanilla Kona. From the home screen, a quick tap to the left takes you to the map, which is, believe it or not, a map that will help you navigate from place to place. You can search for POIs, or you can use stored locations. It's pretty much as stout as your normal navigation system. Now, if you're tired of staring at a map and you'd rather be interested in what's on the radio, quick tap to the top right of the homepage will take you to your radio and media section. You can go through the USB input down here, or you can stream through Bluetooth, or there are a bunch of radio options, your standard FM, AM, HD radio, Sirius XM, all that jazz. Now everything else is just a little bit further off the beaten path, but if you click the All Menus button, it will basically give you all of the apps you could possibly choose from. In addition to the other stuff that you've already seen, like your music, your nav, or your EV settings, you can also get your phone access here. You can look at your data services, which provide both HD radio and Sirius XM based data, such as weather, Doppler radar, stocks, sports, pretty much anything you need to keep up with on the go. Now, the last little bit of tech we have to talk about is right here on the gauge cluster, which is a little bit different than your average Kona cluster because, well, this is a little bit different than your average Kona. Over on the left, you have a power and charge meter to let you know whether you're giving it the beans or letting off and letting the regen braking take control and giving you a little bit of that mileage back. Over on the right, you have a pretty standard battery gauge that acts just like a fuel gauge, lets you know when you can drive, when you can't drive, pretty standard stuff. Smack dab in the middle is an eco gauge that kind of borrows from the power and charge, but tells you how well you're doing versus like an ecological recommendation to make sure that you're not really giving it the juice and you're trying to maximize the efficiency of the battery more so than just, goosing it all over the darn place. And just off to the right of that is a small series of adjustable menus that looks at things like your consumption info, your trip meters, your digital speedometer in case the other one that's there isn't good enough, and also a driving style menu that tells you how economical your driving is, or normal, or in my case, aggressive. Sorry. The Kona Electric rocks a single electric motor tied to its front axle that puts out 201 horsepower and 291 pound-feet of torque. Now, for those of you keeping track at home, that's 26 horses and 96 torques more than even the high-output motor on the gas Kona. And the best part about it is, you can feel it all the time. No matter what speed you're going, you just smash the gas a little bit, and you get a nice, smooth wave of torque. And when it comes time to stop, there is a 3-stage regenerative braking system that gives you different strengths upon deceleration, adjustable through the 2 flappy pedals on the back of the wheel. Now, if you're more a fan of the one-pedal driving scenario, don't worry, the Kona Electric does have you covered. All you have to do is, upon deceleration, hold the left paddle here, and it'll bring you nicely to a halt. Now, in terms of suspension quality and noise mitigation, the story is a little less positive, sadly. The suspension is fine, but it rides really roughshod over prominent bumps and dips, which is kind of a bummer. And then there's noise mitigation. There doesn't appear to be much of that at all. As a matter of fact, it's much louder than the gas Kona because at least the gas Kona had the engine trying to counteract the road noise, whereas here, this thing is running entirely silent, so all I hear is road noise. That being said, there is a low-speed EV noise that kind of sounds like a Hans Zimmer score, so there's that. Now, in terms of efficiency, the EPA rates this battery at 258 miles for a full charge, which is about 4 miles per kilowatt hour. Thankfully, Michigan's weather has been a little better than usual, about 40 degrees, so I've been lower than that, but not too low, at about 228 miles per charge, or about 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour. Now, I've been driving this car just as normally as I do any other car. I'm trying not to pretend it's being super efficient or anything, and I usually get somewhere between 3.8 and 4.6 miles per kilowatt hour. So, I will say that the EPA numbers aren't obscene, and they seem pretty easily reachable. Now, in terms of charging, when you finally deplete your battery, this will take about 9 hours to fill up on a standard 240 volt setup, but thankfully there is DC fast charge compatibility, so if you're out on the town, you can get up to 80% of your battery life in just about under an hour. Now, the standard Hyundai Kona is a pretty affordable car. The Hyundai Kona Electric, on the other hand, not so much. The base model rings in at $36,450 before incentives and destination, while my ultimate trim tester clocks in at a lofty $44,650. Now, that might seem like a lot of scratch, but it is pretty much in line with the competition. The Nissan Leaf Plus is similarly priced, but you get a little less range and the tech's not as impressive. And the Chevrolet Bolt EV is also up there, but its equipment packaging is trash compared to Hyundai's democratized way of doing things. And as for Tesla's Model Y, well, doesn't exist yet, so the Hyundai Kona Electric more or less checks all my boxes. It's pretty much a normal car with a stout electric motor and a capacious battery, which means I think it'll go over pretty well with the public. The only problem is getting the car to the public. Thanks to supply constraints, the vehicle is only available in ZEV states for the time being, and while Hyundai does intend to make it a 50-state car, the automaker is not entirely sure when that will happen. For Hyundai's sake, I hope it's soon, because this is one car that shouldn't be region locked.